Hi everyone, my name is Ann Osborne and I'm the site instructor for TransEd, and today I will be presenting you virtually the health and safety onboarding. So before we get started, there's a few things so you can actually get onto site. Number one, finishing this orientation and then the quiz that's associated with it. There are stickers that you will get for your hard hat, but the actual orientation sticker you'll have to get from us at our company office at 7708 Wagner Road. We also have a COVID-19 social distancing JHA that must be reviewed and signed off and always adhered to. And then you'll get that pink sticker as well that just tells us that you understand social distancing. About the project a little bit, it is a 13-kilometer light rail transit line that connects from the Millwoods neighborhood to Churchill Square, and there's just some beautiful, beautiful areas along our alignment. We're a joint venture. Bechtel, Elliston, Alstom, and Fengate Capital Management are our partners. And I think the best part of this job is the 35-year contract with the City of Edmonton. Social media and media relations policy, you are not allowed to take pictures on this project and post them on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all others. It's very important to know that we have our own social media department and will post pictures that we feel are appropriate to do so. If anyone in the public approaches you or anything like that, just take down the number 780-224-0964 and a TransEd representative will talk to someone. This is our beautiful health and safety policy. They're posted throughout the entire alignment and they're also in your project health and safety employee handbook. This policy is communicated to you and applicable to all of you. It is important to know that TransEd believes in zero incidents, and we want to make sure that our philosophy and our belief is something that you believe in as well. All injuries and illnesses are preventable, and we want to make sure that every aspect of the work that you do there in the field is protecting you and making sure that you know you are our number one priority. Legislation, the next few slides are strictly on legislation, but obligations of worksite parties. So TransEd is the prime contractor on this project, and we have a due diligence to protect workers engaged in the work, workers not engaged in work but present, and those are usually our visitors, and then other persons in the vicinity. So we are working 13 kilometers along roadways where members of the public can access our areas. Please protect them, make sure that they don't get injured. That's one of our priorities here as well. As an employer, we will make sure you understand your rights and obligations of working on any project in Alberta. Your three rights are the right to refuse unsafe work, the right to participate, and the right to know. And we'll talk more and more about that throughout today's session. Every worker, it is so important to protect yourself first and foremost, then other workers engaged in work. So that communication plan is really important. And then other workers not engaged. So you have a due diligence as well to protect those members of the public and just make sure that you're being as safe as possible. The Canada Criminal Code is something that is just such a good thing for our construction industry. And it was brought into play because of an incident that happened May 9th, 1992. When 26 miners were killed because two mine managers knew that the mine was structurally unsound. They knew it was going to collapse, they just didn't know what day. So 26 innocent souls were murdered. And unfortunately, because there was no Canada Criminal Code, they couldn't go after these two mine managers and secure a conviction. It wasn't until March 31st, 2004 that the criminal code was amended and they were able to actually start pursuing cases like this in the future. Unfortunately, with this particular incident, they could never come back against those two mine managers. So they walked away from killing 26 innocent people. The best part about the criminal code is it applies to all of us. So it establishes a legal duty for all persons directing the work of others to take reasonable steps to ensure the safety of the workers and the public. So if you are directing work and you hurt someone, there is the potential you could be charged for not doing everything reasonably possible to protect them. Leads right into the right to refuse unsafe work. or dangerous work. So you have a legal obligation. The moment you think it's unsafe, you have to stop. Unfortunately, today, if you can believe it, in the 2000s, workers still fear discriminatory action, which is just so sad. Discriminatory action is defined as any action or threat of action by a person that does or would adversely affect a worker with respect to any terms or conditions of employment or opportunity for promotion, and includes termination, layoff, suspension, demotion, or transfer of a worker, discontinuation or elimination of a job, change of a job location, reduction in wages, change of hours of work, reprimand, coercion, intimidation, or the imposition of any discipline or any other penalty. Unfortunately, that still happens today, but there are people that would fight for you if you were to be a person who would ever have or suffer from discriminatory action. It is illegal to do that. So please report those dangerous works. Our commitment is called Stop Work Authority, and all we want you to do is, if you see a dangerous act, you initiate a stop work, you notify all affected personnel, you thank the initiator, you resolve the issue, and you go back to work. This whole process should take no more than 30 seconds. You're all empowered with Stop Work Authority, so please use it and really truly make a difference out there in the field. Many general health and safety rules, they are in your employee handbook. That picture to the left there. Just make sure you're adhering to them, and I do touch on them throughout today's session. All right, going on to wayside safety. This is incredibly important. If you're within 3 meters of any rail track, it is important to know that you have to take this training. Wayside safety training teaches you all the hazards working on live track. So right now we're live in the Millwoods area, and eventually the whole alignment will be live. So everybody who is on this project will eventually have to get wayside training. So one of the things they teach you is the overhead catenary system, and that right now it's energized to 750 volts direct current. And if you got within a few inches because you didn't have wayside, so you don't know all the safety protocols, it could potentially arc and you would die. It could be fatal. It's not worth it. So take the training as it's mandatory anyways. This is the risk of not taking wayside training. This is an incident on that left side there in Munich where many passengers and the operator were killed because this operator went onto the live track, didn't have any specific training, and caused this terrible incident that was completely preventable. You learn about a term called OCC, which is Operations Control Center. When you call them, they'll tell you when you can do work on live track. They're the exact same thing as air traffic control. And then that other picture there, that's a derailment. And we just got to make sure our tracks are always kept clean and clear of debris. Drug and alcohol policy, here it is. We're committed to providing a health and safety productive work environment to make sure that you guys feel safe being here. It's also really important that employees read and understand our policy. So there is an acknowledgement form in the orientation package that you will have to clearly print and sign off and date to be allowed to work on this project. Your supervisors, it's important for them to guide you to assistance if you needed assistance, and know that you do have the employee family assistance programs that you can utilize too while being on this project. Our alcohol and drug testing includes both screening and confirmation tests. We do follow the Canadian model, and alcohol testing complies with recognized industry standards. This is a reasonable cause alcohol and drug testing form or checklist, and we're not allowed just to do a drug and alcohol test based on odor. When I first started in industry, I could legally go up to somebody and say, ooh, you smell like a brewery. You cannot do that. You have to go through everything that's on this page right here to make sure you have a case to actually do a drug and alcohol test on someone. Voluntarily disclosing assistance in aftercare, prevention and rehabilitation. We're all about that employee family health program and making sure that you get the care that you need if you do happen to voluntarily disclose and request assistance. And there is no discipline for voluntarily disclosing. So the best example is if we're going for a drug and alcohol test and you were to let me know, hey, I smoked some marijuana the night before, I would still say, great, let's go for the drug and alcohol test, find out how much was in your system, and then we'll get you the care that you need. This is completely confidential as well. This is the form that you guys are going to sign. Again, it's mandatory to do this. Right, near miss and hazard reporting. Report near misses. It is so important. Reporting near misses in unsafe conditions actually prevents incidents. If you can fix it safely and you won't hurt yourself, please do so, because it really does make a difference. When it comes to incident reporting as well, report all injuries and incidents, no matter how minor. You want the proper medical treatment. We have a full-time occupational health nurse on this project. Her name is Nurse Becky, just a phenomenal lady. On our project, all incidents are subjected to a full investigation. What I like about our investigations too is if the crew's safe to do so, no one's hurt, they're fine, they can walk with us, it really helps us get the solid facts that we need to do a thorough investigation. And that way it's not fault finding, which incident investigation should never be finger pointing. WCB is an amazing program, workers' compensation. If you were to be hurt or get hurt on a project, the employer must offer you suitable modified work within their medical restrictions following a work-related injury. WCB is there for you. They will help you and make sure that you always have the care that you need so you can get better and return to work. Procedures and emergency response plans. Emergency response plans should address how to report an injury, how to report an emergency. It's just very important to know that when you're in a work zone, you need to know where your muster points are. If there isn't a muster point where you're working, create one and let that crew. It's also important to know that if there's 3 short blasts of an air horn, that's an emergency first aid, and 1 long blast of an air horn means that there is an evacuation needing to happen. Emergency and evacuation procedures continued. Choosing a fire extinguisher. All of our fire extinguishers out in the field are your basic ABC. It is important, if you feel okay to put out a small fire, go ahead, but use the pass method. So pull the pin, aim the nozzle at the base of the fire, squeeze the operating handle to release the extinguishing agent, and sweep from side to side. If you don't feel safe putting out a small fire, just call 911. We are close to many fire stations out here on our alignment. Hand injury prevention. Identifying those pinch and crush points is so important, and being detailed in your hazard assessment. We have a tendency to generalize pinch and crush points. If you know a pinch point or a crush point, actually write that down in your hazards. Things to look out for is moving or rotating equipment, hand and power tools. Look for the line of fire stuff, falling objects, hot substances and surfaces, and chemicals and hazardous substances. So implementing controls such as using purpose-built tools to protect your hands, mechanically securing material you're working on, so clamps, devices, and not using your hands, keeping your hands out of the line of fire, inspecting your tools is so important, and wearing the right gloves, which we'll find out later on throughout today's session. Back injuries, so ergonomic issues. Back injuries are our #1 injury on the project. Our lifting policy is 50 pounds, and it's just important to use that buddy system as well as mechanical methods, which is ultimately the best. And it's proven that once you've had one back injury, you are susceptible to another one. So repetitive work and pushing, pulling, lifting, awkward, sustained postures. It's just so important to take those micro breaks and change positions frequently and stretch before, during, and after an activity. Life critical requirements. This is incredibly important. There's 12 of them, and I'll be going through each one with you in detail. Our site management actually implements this program, and they will do the investigations. We support, of course. Today, my job is to let you know about the 12 life criticals and how to report violations. I'll be reading the blue boxes and whatever's important in the other section. So drug and alcohol, LC1, never drive or work under the influence of drugs and or alcohol, and never be in possession of drugs and or alcohol while working. Fall protection and prevention, LC2, never work at heights or near openings without fall protection where there's a risk of falling a distance greater than 6 feet or to a dangerous distance below. Fall arrest anchors and connection points are capable of supporting 5,000 pounds on this project. So our tie-off policy on this project is 6 feet. Confined space entry, LC3, never enter a confined space unless trained, authorized, and an entry permit has been completed. Lockout tagout, never commence work until all energy sources have been identified and isolated in accordance with procedures. Rigging, lifting operations, and suspended personnel platforms, LC5, never conduct lifting operations unless authorized and verified as competent, and never work under suspended load. Most important parts of this slide is exclusion zones are established and barricaded on all sides. Riggers are verified as competent, operators are verified as competent, outriggers on cranes are used with appropriate size mats. Defeating safety devices, never disable, bypass, modify, or remove any safety protection device without proper authorization. Barricade signs and tags, never disregard or bypass barricading, signage, and/or tags. Most important part of this slide is protective barricades are capable of supporting 200 pounds of force. LC8, elevated work platforms, never operate any mechanical elevated work platform without documented training. Scaffolding, never access any scaffolding without documented evidence of an inspection by a designated competent person before each work shift. I'll be showing you the tags in a little bit here. Excavations and trenching, never access an excavation deeper than 4 feet that has not been sloped, benched, or shored and an excavation permit completed. Most important parts of these slides for this particular slide is equipment involved in the excavation shall not be placed or operate within 3 feet of the excavation edge, and spoil piles must be kept at least 3 feet as well. LC11, portable ladders, never use a portable ladder in a manner that could cause a serious injury. Ladders will be constructed of wood or fiberglass only. We do not allow metal ladders on our project at all. Mobile equipment personnel interaction, MEPI. That's what you have to remember is that term MEPI. It's the easiest way to remember it, but never interact with mobile construction equipment on the roads or in the construction work environment. Area traffic control plans have to be in place. We do not want workers or members of the public to have the potential or be in the potential runway of equipment moving around. So walkways and spotters are mandatory on this project. You have to tell them to get out of the way or follow the walk paths. Make sure you have appropriate signage out there to protect those folks. FLHAs, you should all know what field level hazard assessments are, and it's important to make sure that you clearly identify what your daily task is with the hazards and how you're going to control those. We do have the right as prime contractor, if we are coming around to audit them, please make sure you're doing them at the task in the field and have them on your person. Again, you're allowed to do it as a crew or individual. It is completely up to you. Joint Health and Safety Committee. We have a really good committee. It is the law to have one. We do wear blue vests, the members. I have 12 of them. We're posted throughout the entire alignment, and we're there for you. If you needed to talk to somebody or you wanted to express some areas of concern, you can talk to one of us as our numbers are posted. And again, we're all throughout the alignment. We have half of us are worker members and half of us are management members. And we are also meant to tour with OHS if there's an investigation that needs to happen as well. Workplace violence prevention policy, beautiful policy. Again, it's in your employee handbook and posted throughout the alignment, as well as our harassment prevention policy. It is really important to know the scope and application that TransEd believes that we prevent workplace violence and harassment and promote an abuse-free environment. We want everybody to be respected and be able to work in an environment where you feel safe. So we are committed to investigating any incidents that are reported of violence and harassment, taking necessary action and providing appropriate support to anyone who has been in those situations. General housekeeping, please clean as you go. It is so important to keep walkways clear, and it is proven that if you have a clean site, you'll have a happy site. So again, please clean up as you go. If you need bins or anything, please let TransEd know and we'll work together. Sharing is caring, and we don't want to have that debris all throughout the alignment. Safety data sheets, hazard communication. If you have any chemicals that you are bringing on this project, please know that it is the law to have the SDS. The SDS will save your life if you came into contact with the chemical. It tells you what kind of PPE you need to wear, what kind of first aid measures are in place, and how much you're allowed to be exposed to. So please have those SDSs with you. All right, general safe working requirements. We're getting into the whole PPE section of the orientation, talking about employee conduct. You know, I get that workers and management, we're going to joke around so we can have some fun, but at the end of the day, you need to do a 360 before you drop a joke. Those hurt feelings reports are serious, and you never know who you could offend. So please make sure just to check around before you start joking and know your audience. Now going into dress requirements, you are allowed to wear t-shirts on this project. Your t-shirt does have to cover your shoulders, so about 4 inches in length. No sleeveless, no tank tops, no rolled up shirts. At least be thankful, I'm thankful that we can wear t-shirts on this project. Again, that is task specific. So let's say you're working around rebar or whatever. It's just important you wear long sleeves to protect your skin. Pants have to be sturdy material suitable for a construction work environment. So jeans or some other similar type. Leggings, jogging pants, sweatpants, yoga pants are strictly prohibited on this project. This is our PPE policy, again, posted throughout the alignment as well as your project health and safety employee handbook. The things that have to be worn at all times as a minimum requirement are hard hats, high visibility vests, laced up safety boots or rubber boots, glasses, and gloves. And again, I will go into each one in detail. Please remember that PPE is not the first option for protection. It just provides protection by minimizing and or eliminating exposure to hazards in the work area. So this is the COVID-19 requirements for face coverings. So maintaining social distancing, mandatory to wear specialized PPE. Face coverings have to be covering your nose and your mouth. It's just important to wear the right ones. We do not allow face shields to be worn on this project. It's very important to know that a face covering your mouth and nose is what we allow. Okay, going into hard hats. Any person entering a work area where there's a risk of a head injury must wear a hard hat. So basically it's mandatory throughout our entire alignment. Bum caps or cowboy style hard hats are not allowed. Your basic Class E hard hat is all we ask, and brim forward only. When it comes to wearing hoodies underneath or over top of your hard hat, it is a zero tolerance. We do not allow that at all. You lose your peripheral vision. You are, however, allowed to wear tight-fitting toques, beanies, balaclavas, and CSA-approved hard hat liners to protect your ears from the cold weather. Everything is allowed for high visibility except for the straps. Very important that straps are not allowed, as we have observed many workers wearing them and they just let them loose. So vests or t-shirts, whatever you got, as long as it meets the CSA standard Z96-15. Eye protection. Darks and 50/50s are not allowed in buildings or in the tunnel. It is clears only. When you're outside and it's sunny and bright, go ahead and wear those darks and 50/50s. They do have to meet that ANSI Z87.1 standard. And then if you're performing any welding, grinding, power brushing, power saw use, you have to use the appropriate face shield. 6-inch steel toe or composite toe work boots are mandatory on this project. It gives you that good ankle support. Runners, sandals, flip-flops, all that other stuff is your tolerance for. Defined heel and skid resistant, puncture resistant sole. And then that green CSA triangle stamp is required on your boot. And then if you're working in a live panel because you're an electrician or something like that, you have to have the ohm symbol as well. Safety gloves. We are very particular with our gloves. It's a level 4 cut resistance or greater and a level 2 puncture resistant. These gloves actually really do make a difference for preventing minor cuts and scrapes on your hands. Therefore, you don't have any incidents. Specialty hand protection is required that does not meet those requirements. There might be the rubber chemical resistant gloves, anti-vibration gloves. It's very important to wear the right gloves for the type of task that's being done out there in the field. Hearing protection, required based on hazard assessments, so provides protection by reducing that noise level that enters the ear. It's really important to know that 85 decibels is the law, and 105 decibels on our project requires you to wear double hearing protection. Respiratory protection. So TransEd actually has a couple people that are trained to fit test half masks and full face. And so if you were determined to be a exposed worker, or we identify it through our tours, we can fit test you and make sure that you're safe. So requirements, just respirator selection, medical evaluation, health surveillance, cleaning and inspection, maintenance and storage, facial hair policy and training. So we'll make sure you know and understand all that stuff before we actually do the fit test with you. When we do our fit test, we are only allowed to do clean shaven or narrow mustache, 3-finger to be exact, and then unacceptable is everything else. Smoking policy, it's very important to just make sure you're smoking in a designated smoking area. Again, if there isn't a designated smoking area, feel free to create one. And please be kind to those businesses that are in operations around the alignment, as well as our trailer systems, to not smoke within 10 meters of entrances and windows. You are liable for any fire or damage that you cause with your smoke butt. Safe limits of approach. If any type of work is within 7 meters of overhead and energized power line, the employer must contact the power line operator to determine the voltage of the power line, and you have to maintain that safe distance. And then you will hopefully be able to go to work in that area. When it comes to powered mobile equipment, only trained and authorized operators are permitted to operate the equipment. Personnel cannot stand or walk around the suspended portion of any powered mobile equipment, MEPI. Trucks must be equipped with an overhead guard for protection against falling objects. Fork trucks or their components must not be modified. Equipment must only handle loads that are rated for their capacity. So if you're operating, please make sure the safety manual is in the piece of equipment and you're adhering to how it says to operate, as well as your own procedures. Floor and wall openings. One of my biggest pet peeves is holes left uncovered in the ground. And covers are a minimum of 3/4 grade exterior grade plywood that extend minimum 4 inches over the edge and pinned in all 4 quarters and clearly marked hole. And that's the law. So it is so important that you are making sure that holes are properly covered. We can't afford to have a worker or a member of the public fall into one. That would just be tragic. Utility clearance. Follow TransEd specific utility clearance requirements for utility clearance. Before excavating, a ground disturbance permit must be obtained, and somebody in the crew will have to have ground disturbance level 2 for supervisors. Inspection requirements. So this is our quarterly color code chart, and it must be followed by everyone on the project. Ladders, fall protection, electrical equipment, and rigging and lifting gear. We're in the second quarter right now, April through June, so brown. Use brown electrical tape, brown zip ties, whatever you have that's brown, to clearly mark those items to say or show that, hey, we have looked at them and they're in good condition. Occupational health exposure. Respirable crystalline silica is incredibly dangerous, same with asbestos and lead paint. It is so important to know that if you are deemed an exposed worker, you're working in an exposed area, air sampling is mandatory by law, exposure control plans are required, engineering controls are used. So wetting down this stuff so you don't become an exposed worker. We just don't want that respirable crystalline silica or asbestos, if we were working around it, to enter into your wonderful lungs and cause you to get silicosis or lung cancer. So if you are deemed an exposed worker, we'll want to see your exposure control plan. You'll probably go be wearing a respirator. So it's just really important to take care of yourself and use appropriate PPE to protect against exposure in the risked areas. Bloodborne pathogens, if you see needles out there, which needles have been noticed quite a bit, especially downtown Edmonton, don't pick them up, don't kick them, leave them there. We will have one of our people we have 5 trained people who can come pick up a needle safely. We do not want any of you to be poked. Sharps containers are readily available throughout the alignment as well. Heat and cold stress. Know the signs and symptoms of heat stress. So you got heat cramps, heat exhaustion, and the worst, of course, being heat stroke. Project will provide cool water in convenient, visible locations close to the work areas. Drink small amounts of water before you become too thirsty. You want to maintain that good hydration throughout the day. Drinking moderately throughout the day is key, and you want to keep that urine as clear as possible, because the darker it is, obviously, you're not drinking enough water. Now, going into cold stress, nothing to really worry about right now, but if you're too cold, go warm up, start looking out for each other's safety, and always, again, staying hydrated. Thank you for participating in the TransEd onboarding for the health and safety side. If you have any questions, I'll be back in the room. So please make sure you complete the TransEd safety quiz, and then I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great day.